the checklist for the end of the program. And we're looking at the Alabama Standards for Instructional Leaders for the Instructional Leadership, Internship, and Residency checklist.
All right, Coach, tell me a little bit about Standard 1, planning for continuous improvement.
Okay, so I know that one big part of that is kind of working with students, parents, teachers in the building, and also the community, kind of working toward that shared vision and plan. So being able to lead and motivate the staff and the students and families to look toward a common vision. I was thinking one thing we did with the building leadership team in trying to increase attendance for standardized testing and also to raise standardized test scores. We worked on that, the initiative to where if students had measurable growth in their reading, math, and science on the standardized testing, and also no discipline issues within the week of testing, that we had the Party in the Pines program out there. So I thought that was something good that we did. Also, just kind of in Standard 1, we were looking at working with faculty to identify instructional and curricular needs that align with our vision and resources, and looking at some of those needs or the monies that we got in from the state with the budget committee. And so I was able to serve as the chair of that and got some experience looking at the financial aspect of that, going back to teams delegating those responsibilities so that we could get input across the school and how we would spend those monies regarding especially technology.
Okay, you feel good about Standard 1? That's pretty much.
Yes, ma'am. There's a few more
Okay.
things. Also on indicator 7, the ability to work with staff and others to establish and accomplish goals. You know, we're in the middle of implementing Leader in Me SEL curriculum, and so I was chosen to go on the leadership, the Lighthouse team, leader for family communication. And so working with my team members on that to develop a roadmap and how we would reach out to parents and those in the community on kind of what we were doing here to kind of help support our vision of how we wanted to install Leader in Me at the school. And then I looked on 11, the indicators there is the ability to delegate tasks clearly and appropriately to accomplish organizational goals. I think that, and I've spoken a little bit about the delegation part in terms of the Lighthouse team and budget committee and handing off responsibilities to those so that more leadership is shared across the board and it gets more buy-in, and ultimately it helps us work toward that organizational goal more efficiently.
All right. Was that all for Standard 1?
I had one more
Okay.
so for indicator 15 was the ability to use multiple sources of data to manage the accountability process. I know that one thing in terms of data, we looked at the MRA results, the measurable results survey for the Leader in Me, and that came from parents, students, and teachers, and that helped us make more informed decisions about how we were going to be able to make our school better.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at Standard 2, teaching and learning.
Yes, ma'am.
Give me some feedback on that one.
Okay, so I'm just looking at 7 was the ability to coach staff and teachers on the evaluation of student performance. And we were starting to look into that with the Powerful Conversations Network, the PCN trainings and events that I attended last year. And this last spring or last professional development day, with Ms. Williams, I led a turnaround training on that professional development day on helping teachers identify and then be able to evaluate their students' needs, help them build those essential skills that would help them be more successful and ultimately increase student achievement. Also, 13 was the ability to use multiple sources of data to manage the accountability process. I think that's looking at not only formal and informal checks within the classroom and also those as grades, but also to look at, like with Brooke Kavanaugh, our counselor, to look at the students who are at risk, to have those meetings with her, and to look at the data in terms of absenteeism and disciplinary issues to kind of see how we would go about helping keeping students more accountable. And also, we saw that too in the Leader in Me program with the journaling and having students lead the Wednesdays, the flex period for the Leader in Me, and I think that helped as well. And I guess that kind of ties into the ability to assess student progress with a variety of formal and informal assessments. I know one thing that I really got a lot out of last year was last June, when you invited me to the principals meeting at the central office, and we looked at the rollout of the Power School, and being able to look at assessments, not just in terms of classroom grades and standardized tests, but also WIDA and STAR scores, to be able to keep track of student progress. So I thought that was interesting, and that's something I'm interested to see how that's gonna look rolling out. So make sure I'm still recording.
All right, standard 3, human resources and development.
Yes, ma'am. So we're looking at ability to coach staff and teachers.
Coach, staff, and teachers on
And
the evaluation
evaluation.
of student performance, yes.
That one, and along with 3, the ability to work collaboratively with teachers to plan for individual professional development. I think that is something that really helps with what you and Ms. Kavanaugh, and how we developed the master schedule, and sitting down with the master schedule last year, with you and Ms. Kavanaugh looking at, that was last summer, how we're going to set teachers up to where they have that protected time for common planning, and being able to meet with our instructional partner, Ms. Williams, on how to coach the teachers and also each other in terms of mentoring, and how we would look at student performances and evaluate kind of what direction do we need to change in terms of what are we doing in the classroom, if there's things we need to keep doing or things we need to kind of tweak along the way. And then the 4, ability to use a variety of supervisory models to improve teaching and learning. I know that we have the turnaround trainings that, and I've led several of those in the past, that helps those models to improve teaching and learning. And the big one we haven't done in a while was the instructional rounds, and being able to look at data here at our school and kind of what we're seeing, so that it helps us, and it's kind of I guess not a one-size-fits-all approach, but we actually get to target into what we see in the English classrooms and the science classrooms in terms of depth of knowledge. I thought that was something good that we were able to do as well. And it looks like I'm looking at 5, also the ability to apply adult learning strategies to professional development. Again, that kind of ties in with what we see on professional development. Those collaborative days, the way that we have those on campus here at Dolphin, so that those strategies that we use produce really meaningful conversations and meaningful professional development that our faculty and staff members feel connected to and feel like it's something that they can actually turn around and use in their own classrooms.
Okay, and the last one, I don't know if you talked about this one already, I think you did, but fostering development of aspiring leaders, including teacher leaders, and so I think that's very powerful, that one right there. What we always, or at least my goal every year, is to try and make teachers leaders, and so giving them an opportunity to lead professional development and other opportunities that we have for them to just become leaders within departments, within grade levels. So I think that helps a lot, and you've been a part of that as well.
And I've seen too that is also just help create the buy-in for more teachers to get involved, and they feel valued, and it gives them that sense of ownership over whatever programs or initiatives we're doing, and I know they're certainly appreciative of that.
Yes. All right, standard 4, community and stakeholder relationships.
Okay.
Looks like there's 2 standards under that one.
Okay.
Or 2, what do you call those, like indicators?
Indicators,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Okay, Could you read that one to me?
Sure, actively engage the community to share responsibility for student and school success. You only had 2 there.
Okay, yes, ma'am, on the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. So I know that's one thing that we are attempting to implement with the Leader in Me program in terms of how we are communicating with the community and also families. So one thing that we wanted to do was, as part of Ms. Hamlin's multimedia design class, was to roll out a student newspaper, a school newspaper that was ultimately student driven. And that we could actually produce literature in terms both English and Spanish, because that's a large part of a growing part of our demographic. I know that you give out the every Sunday you do the auto calls home at 5 o'clock. We have, kind of going back to talking about giving ownership, creating teacher leaders, having Ms. Kavanaugh run a portion of the Dolphin Facebook page and also Ms. Nichols as well. It's something that we were looking at, and something that actually I'm planning on doing right now as head coach is reaching out to other leaders in the community to see how we can work together, especially for our zone, to kind of give back and also to involve the community in some things that we do in terms of football, so that we're creating good citizens as well as students in that place.
I agree with that. I think it's so important to have the students a part of the community.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that touched on both of those indicators. So let's move on to standard 5. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this one is a big one, which is technology. So interested in hearing what you have to say with that one.
Okay, so it looks like we're looking at the knowledge to discover practical approaches, okay, for developing and implementing successful technology planning. Okay, so I know one thing that we started off with early on in the year was having our technology coordinator, Christine Strickland, come over here during common planning times, and to me that's a practical approach for being able to plan out how you would implement technology and utilizing district resources such as our coordinator there. And then having the common planning time to be able to map it out. If I could kind of go back and look at it again, kind of looking at hindsight, speaking with her about, on the budget committee, the money that we got in for technology, ideas that she might be able to help us develop a plan based on our technology needs that we have. And I know that's part of the surveys that go out every year at the end, asking the teachers about their technology needs on the school staff survey, which I actually took mine last night. And so that was one of the components of that.
Okay. Is that pretty, okay? All right, standard 6.
Okay.
Management of the learning organization, and the first indicator says building ability to support a culture of learning at the school.
Okay, I'll make sure I'm doing the right one. We're looking at standard.
Standard 6.
Standard 6. I'll make sure mine's
Did
right.
I not number them or?
I might be looking at the wrong one. I think are we on management of learning organization?
Management of learning organization.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that number 7?
Yes, ma'am.
And I said standard 7 or 6.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm looking at
That's
it right
on me.
now. Okay, so the ability to build and ability to support a culture of student learning. We've mentioned in the past developing the instructional rounds to look at objective data to help us grow, so that it's not looking at one particular teacher, but things that we see going on holistically across the school. And in terms of what are you actually seeing, what are you hearing, not necessarily what is not taking place, but what is taking place. And that kind of helps us restructure how we think we need to approach something as simple as learning targets, so that we can ultimately get the students to where we need to be within the standard, so that they're actually taking an approach of, yes, this is the standard we're covering, but what skills are being developed as a part in mastering that standard from the state. I know also that the culture of learning at the school, One thing that Ms. Camacho had done at one point, it was actually when I first got here, was the facilitators. We had Google Classrooms, the PLNs, Professional Learning Networks, and we had done that as well, to look at that. That model helps to grow the mindset of that culture of learning, so that teachers don't feel like they're stagnant in terms of not being able to learn to grow, and kind of that lifelong learning mentality, so that we can actually help each other and build off each other to grow there as well. And then I'm looking at 9 right here, the ability to develop techniques and organizational skills to lead and manage the complex and diverse organizations. A lot of that stuff, I think, goes back into the teacher leaders and supporting teacher leaders at the school. And that could be in the building leadership team, where there is collective buy-in from every department. And so within that, you have a representative from every department, so that everybody's voice is heard. The budget committees, the Leader in Me, the Lighthouse, those that we've done in the past have really helped to, because we're not large in terms of a high school where we have a large career tech department, but we are pretty diverse in terms of, aside from core content, with sports and our electives, to be able to have organizational skills to bring all of those together does require some techniques and ways to collect teacher buy-in. So I think that's kind of where I was looking at it. Just the delegation aspect of it has been, from what I've seen in this kind of whole process going through this this graduate program, is I feel like that's one of the best approaches that I've seen. I've seen you and I've seen other administrators take, is to be able to work collaboratively, but also to delegate, so that it helps things run smoother.
And delegation is not an easy thing. Because you want it done right. And so what I've learned over time, though, is if I surround myself with good people that I can trust, I can delegate, and I know that it's done. There have been times, though, early in my admin career, that I did not delegate, and it was a lot on me. So yeah, delegation is a huge part of becoming and maintaining just the success of an administrator. I mean, because it's tough, because everything really boils down to the administrator, no matter how it goes, be it good or bad. So we just have to be careful, and delegating to the right person. So let's take, for example, if I needed something done in history, I'm not going to a math teacher for that. I'm coming to history, so just have to be mindful of that, Coach, too.
And I'm finding, just in the very short time that I've spent here as head coach, within really a week, the importance of being able to delegate, but being able to have those staff members that you can rely on, because you do want it done right, but being able to have those ones that can get the job done efficiently and effectively. So that's something that I'm glad I'm getting that experience, in addition to these experiences I've had in this program, because looking at the financial aspects of it, of working with Johnson, our bookkeeper, and with parents, it's almost like its own little world of administration inside the world of administration. So I'm really glad that I'm getting to be able to have those experiences too.
Good.
Because I see a lot of similarities between the two. So.
Yeah, because whatever happens with football, that's on you, Coach.
Yes, ma'am. You're right.
It's on you.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. And I will fill this out.
Okay. Now, cut this off here.